Good morning, everybody. Great. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here today. It is my first SIS. So it's a question that everyone asks each other. So I will candidly admit that it's my first. I really have enjoyed learning from you. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about some of the things that are on our mind at Microsoft. But I'm kind of thinking that one of the things on your mind, if you took a look at all in my bio, is what is a big corporate lawyer like me doing in a place like this? Because my background was 25 plus years at Microsoft, working on commercial transactions and supporting the business. And I loved being a lawyer. I loved that intermediate copyright stuff. I loved that Herfindahl index for monopolies. I loved negotiating those indemnification agreements. But this job is really my passion because it enables the company, it enables me to help realize the company's vision, to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. Now, we as commercial companies often do a really great job with a mission like this with the commercial side of the ecosystem. But it is also just as important, if we're going to fulfill the mission, to think about the non-commercial side, to think about nonprofits, and to think about communities who have traditionally been left behind. And so that is where Microsoft Philanthropies come in. Our goal with Microsoft Philanthropies is to bring access to technology and skills to use that technology to the people who need them most. And for us, we want to be the best partner that anybody can be to nonprofits as they adopt new technology, deploy and use technology. And we want to be on the forefront to ensure that people are developing the skills needed, the computational literacy needed for jobs in the 21st century. But it's not just about the technology. It's about other things too. It's about skills-based volunteering from our employee base. It's about marketing combinations with great nonprofits. It's about using our voice for advocacy on issues that we care about related to the use of technology and skills. And so that brings us to this talk and the purpose of using technology for social good. But in order to understand what the promise is, we actually probably need to take a quick step back. You might remember the first industrial revolution. That was steam engines. And with this, business went forward and people went forward too. This was the beginning of immigration and broad movements of people, when there were railroads instead of wagon trains, when there were steamships instead of the tall ships. And if we went forward to the second industrial revolution, this was the age of mass production, of textiles. And while businesses went forward, people went forward too. They were able to use refrigeration. They were able to use things like sewing machines. They were able to entertain with things like the gramophone. And with the third industrial revolution, the so-called information and communication technology revolution, we saw business productivity going forward in really big ways, and we also saw personal productivity as well, with things like communication and entertainment. And you probably have all heard about there's an app for that. And now the fourth industrial revolution, already upon us. This is the age of big data, and this is the age of machine learning. It's a way in which we can combine data that you hadn't thought about before combining to find problems, to address problems that you had not before been able to solve. But as we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, there is anxiety. People are talking about job disruption. People are talking about what will happen. Will robots take over for all of the workers in the Amazon warehouse on distribution? Will taxi drivers be replaced by driverless cars? It will be important to provide skills to adapt to new jobs, and it will be important for jobs that we have today to be adapted. So let me give you an example of a job that has been adapted. One of, I'd say, this is one of the oldest professions in the world. Farming. So this is Grandpa Snapp from the mid-1980s. From the mid-1950s. He was about 75 years old when this photograph was taken, and he had been farming for his entire life. And as is often the case in farmers in that period of time, he kept a journal, a farm journal. He recorded the winds. He recorded the prices for his crops and his livestock. And he reported repairs in fences and wayward cows and the birthing of lambs. And if you're a farmer in this era and in this time, you have to be proud, you have to be independent, you have to be optimistic. And the only time in this journal, in this year, 1956, that he showed frustration and that he showed even loneliness was when technology failed him. A particular device of technology failed him, and it was something like this: a radio from the 1950s. This was his only communication, and it was a one-way communication to the outside world. So let's fast forward to think about farming today. And I'm going to tell you a story instead. He could only, I don't think, even imagine the story of the connected cow, courtesy of a Microsoft researcher named Joseph Soros. Now, you'll notice that these cows have ear tags. They actually submit data and information so that farmers can understand the health of their herds. But it gets better than that, because many dairy cows these days wear pedometers on their feet. Now, do cows also need to take 10,000 steps a day? Now, that's really not it. But what is happening is the solution to a problem that's been vexing dairy farmers for a long time, and that is maybe the sexiest story of the cloud: when do cows go into heat? So if you go back and you think about estrus and fertility from that old biology class, cows only are fertile, female cows of course, only are fertile for about 8 hours every 21 months, every 21 days. Every 21 days. And as often happens, usually in the dead of night. So this is vexing for farmers who want to stabilize their dairy production. And researchers found a link between the number of steps that a female cow walked and the onset of estrogen. And they can predict estrogen and fertility with a 95% accuracy rate. A bit of a heat map for cows, if you will. So that's one story about how industry has adapted. Let me show you another story about what innovation can happen in the cloud.
For as long as I can remember, I've had a desire to do something that changes someone's life. This is my community, my home. And when I looked around, I saw beauty, possibility, but I also saw a problem. This is still what midwives use to listen to a fetal heartbeat. So I asked myself, what can I do? We created the Singer app with Microsoft technology to more accurately monitor and track the health of both the baby and the mother, so we can identify problems before it's too late. Our hope is to make mother-child diagnosis easy and affordable. This means we're ultimately saving more lives. That means a brighter future for all of us.
So what can you do? The possibilities with passion, with commitment to do something, and with using technology really are endless. Now, I will give you the note of caution. People are talking as well about privacy, about security, about government surveillance. And it is important that we manage those issues. And that's why Microsoft in the last year has twice sued the United States government to ensure that people's rights in the digital world are equal to the rights that they have in the physical world. So we will continue, and other companies will support working through these kinds of policy issues as we go forward. But the technology will move forward, and the innovation will move forward. So as we think about the rest of the world coming online, as Marcus Shingles talked about in the first session, and as we think about people today already online and what they will do beyond email, beyond those office apps, it's important for nonprofits, NGOs, and regulators to take advantage of this cloud technology, to use it for all of its promise, and to bring people the skills that they will need to adapt to the 21st century. So my ask today for you is to embrace the technology of the cloud, and together we can build a fourth industrial revolution that brings technology for social good. Thank you very much.